Welcome to the Lunken story. Lunken Airport is more than just another airport. Its roots go back to early aviation years. It evolved from a grass strip landing place to a significant commercial airport. Later it reverted to a general aviation model. I'm going to focus on highlights of Lunken without going too deeply into individuals. People are important and there are many contributors to Lunken's history. However, most of them would not be familiar to you. For the most part, I'm going to avoid most specific dates. When you start doing historical research, you find many conflicts with specific dates. The original airport site attracted settlers and established Cincinnati's original community there in 1788. They called it Columbia. They were forced to relocate to Losanaville, the present Cincinnati, because of the frequent flooding. A cemetery is located off of Wilmer Avenue just north of the terminal building on the left side of the road. This is a view of the cemetery located at the top of a small hill. Many pioneers were buried there. A millstone was found during the excavation for the airport, and it is located to the left of the entrance to the terminal building. Lunken Airport started life as a small landing field called Turkey Bottoms. It got its name from the large number of wild turkeys that roamed the area. A barnstorming pilot by the name of Dixie Davis started a flying business at the corner of Beachmont Avenue and Wilmer Road, the present location of the Lunken Playfield. Davis died in an Indiana plane crash in 1932. This small airfield caught the attention of the Grizzard Company, partially owned by Eshelby Lunken, which owned Grizzard Field in Blue Ash, Ohio. Mr. Lunken viewed this airfield as having more growth potential and was only 4 miles from downtown Cincinnati. In December 1925, the Grizzard Company was dissolved and Lunken family provided financial backing to purchase 204 additional acres of land owned by the Cincinnati Polo Club. This airfield became known as Lunken Airport. As a part of the development, the Army Corps of Engineers 359th Reserve Squadron was relocated from what was the predecessor to the Blue Ash Airport to Lunken. By the way, the Blue Ash Airport was closed to make way for a park. This is often the fate of many small airports today. It existed for almost 90 years. The Army brought with them hangars that were originally located at McCook Field, Dayton, Ohio. McCook was the major flying field for the military during the early years of aviation. These hangars are still standing at the south end of the airport. The 359th used DH-4s. DH-4s were widely used during World War I and were built under license from the de Havilland Aircraft Company of Britain. The only military plane designed and manufactured in the U.S. during that period was the Jenny. The largest producer was the Dayton Wright Company of Dayton, Ohio. Inset is a picture of a Jenny. Airline operations began in 1925. In 1928, the city of Cincinnati passed a bond issue allowing purchase of an additional 870 acres and took assignment of a perpetual lease of the airport from the Lunken family. The airfield was now operated by the city of Cincinnati. Long-term plans envisioned Lunken as the city's main airport. Brick hangars were started in 1929 in Art Deco style. On December 17, 1925, exactly 22 years after the historic flight of the Wright brothers, the Embry-Riddle Company was founded at Lunken Airport. The following spring, the company opened the Embry-Riddle School of Aviation. They went on to become the Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Florida. Today, that institution is one of the most prestigious aviation universities in the world. The time was 1929. The Aeronca was touted to be the one of the first successful general aviation aircraft produced in the United States. The first plane produced was the C-2 flying bathtub. Several other models followed. In World War II, they produced the Defender, a tandem trainer that was used for training pilots. Several observation and liaison designs were also produced during and after the war. The prominent local family, the Tafts, were heavily involved with the company. Aeronca, that's Aeronautical Corporation of America, aircraft were manufactured at Lunken until after the 1937 flood. They then moved to Middletown, Ohio, where they continued to operate manufacturing components for the aerospace industry. Today, it operates as a division of Magellan Aerospace Industries. The former Aeronca factory still exists. It was used by Procter & Gamble for hangar space until recent years. It was located on Wilmer Avenue close to the Playfield. Inset is a current picture of the factory building. The appearance has changed quite a bit, though, over the years. After the war, Aeronca resumed production of civilian aircraft. One, the 7AC, better known as the Champ, sold nearly 8,000 units between 1945 and 1951. In its history as a general aviation and military aviation manufacturer, Aeronca produced over 17,000 planes. Many are still flying today. 1929, metal aircraft company, the Flamingo. Flamingo produced one of the first metal airplanes. Earlier planes were largely wood and fabric. 21 were built. Unfortunately, Flamingo became a victim of the Depression. The Flamingo helped Embry-Riddle and other airmail companies evolve into passenger-carrying airlines. The last one is located in Venezuela. It was flown by Jimmy Angel, who discovered Angel Falls in that country. Powell Crosley Jr., the wealthy investor and manufacturer, and the Tafts were heavily involved with the company. Inset is a picture of the falls. Ford Trimotor became the passenger airplane of choice around the same time. It was all metal, had a greater passenger capacity, and had 3 engines. Some of these are still flying today. The EAA, Experimental Aircraft Association, is a Ford touring the country giving rides. You may see it at Lunken on occasion. Ford had a crew of 2 and carried 10 passengers at a cruise speed of 90 miles an hour. It had a range of 550 miles and 199 were built. Started in 1929, 3 brick hangars were built on the south side of the field in Art Deco style. The hangars are still standing today. However, Hangar 3 is no longer occupied because it has been determined to be too close to the runway approach for runway 7. It has only stood there for over 80 years without problems. Inset is a picture of the Art Deco work on Hangar 1. It is a series of inverted airplanes. In 1930, formal dedication of Lunken took place as the largest municipal airport in the United States, a status earned due to the size of its concrete runways. A part of the new facility was the American Airways Sky Chef restaurant, which today is operated as the Sky Galley Restaurant. Many visiting dignitaries were present, like Jimmy Doolittle and actress Jean Harlow. Lunken was Cincinnati's main airport during this period. American Airways, later called American Airlines, was the exclusive provider until 1941, when Delta and TWA arrived to challenge them. Few airports had control towers in the early days. It wasn't until the mid-1930s that construction on one at Lunken was started. The 1937 flood marked the beginning of the demise of the airport as an airline facility. The picture of the tower says it all. The dark-colored block on the face of the building showing the high water mark is still present. Paintings are in the terminal lobby. The paintings at the Lunken terminal were painted in 1937 by William Harry Goddard and were designed to complement the ornate plasterwork which was destroyed by the flood in 1937 during construction. The paintings were already half completed when the flood of 1937 struck. The paintings were moved to the Union Terminal for completion. When the terminal opened, they were then returned to Lunken. The painting on the left depicts man bent by the burden of gravity. The one on the right depicts man released to fly on the wings of aviation. Hanging in the lobby is the more powerful Aeronca C-3. It was introduced in 1931 and features room for a passenger seated next to the pilot. It's also powered by a 36 horsepower Aeronca E113 engine. The Sky Galley Restaurant has been around since 1930 when the airport was dedicated. In the early years it was known as the American Airways Sky Chef Restaurant. It has a lot of memorabilia from yesteryears. This is an early photograph of the Lunken lobby when American Airlines was the sole operator there. While the Cincinnati political fathers debated where to relocate the municipal airport, Northern Kentucky stepped forth proposing that an Army training airfield located in Boone County, Kentucky be selected. The proposal was accepted. After the move of the airlines to Greater Cincinnati Airport, flight training continued to be a major contributor to Lunken's prominence from the late 1940s into the 1960s. This was due in large part to the GI Bill, which paid for vocational training for returning veterans. Sporty's Pilot Shop was founded in 1961 by Hal Shevers and was originally located in the Lunken Airport Terminal. Like many entrepreneurial ventures, Sporty's began small when Hal was flight instructing. He began to sell pilot supplies to his students. All operations were moved to Sporty's current Claremont County Sporty's Airport location in 1990. From humble beginnings, Sporty's has become the world's premier pilot shop and developer of aviation educational programs. Inset is a photo of the space that was originally housed Sporty's in the terminal building. FlightSafety is the world's leading aviation training company. The year was 1940. Al Elshi, founder of FlightSafety, although only 23 years old at this time, was working as a chief pilot for Queen City Flying Service located at Lunken. One of Queen City's contracts was an aerobatic standardization course for inspectors with the Civil Aeronautics Administration, the former of today's Federal Aviation Administration. Now we're going to talk about some features of Lunken Airport. Lunken is about 500 feet above sea level. That is how aviators describe the elevation of the field. We use this information when landing at the airport. Currently there are 3 runways. There used to be 4. The 4th runway was closed and turned into a taxiway in the 1960s. Why do we have multiple runways? One reason is for the wind. If the wind is not blowing down the runway, we call it a crosswind. If the wind direction relative to the runway is too extreme, planes cannot land. To solve the problem, multiple runways are built. Another reason for multiple runways is for multiple airplanes to land and or take off at the same time. Runways have numbers on them. The numbers correlate with the compass direction they are oriented to. Example, a runway oriented north-south would have 36 painted on the end facing north, and the other end would have 18 because it faces south. All these things are useful for pilots, especially when flying in poor weather. Lunken has an instrument landing system. This is known as an ILS. It was installed in 1964. The system sends out two signals to the airplane. The one is called the localizer, and it tells the pilot the path to follow to the runway. The other signal, called the glide slope, tells the pilot how to descend to land. There are two radio signals on the ILS. The first, called the outer marker, tells the pilot when they are at the start of the approach. At that time, they usually extend the landing gear. The second is called the middle marker when they are getting close to the airport. The ILS is a very precision system. Airplanes can land at Lunken when the cloud bases are around 200 feet and the visibility is as low as a half a mile. To put this into perspective, at minimums, the airplane is about at the midpoint over the golf course. Very precision. Some ILS systems can provide even lower approaches. However, they require additional instruments both on the ground and in the plane. With these systems, you can land with zero cloud base and zero visibility. Now let's look at what an ILS approach looks like from the cockpit. Here is a list of major operations that are based at Lunken Airport today. Signature Flight Support is the local FBO, which is a fixed base operator. Signature provides a variety of services to the aviation industry. Here is a list of the types of services that they provide. In 2006, P&G completed a new $14 million hangar to meet its global aviation needs. It will generate $100,000 per year in annual fees for the airport. It accommodates 5 jets and 50 workers. As of 2006, 53% of P&G's $72 billion business comes from outside the North America. 26% is coming from developing markets such as China, Africa, and India. Some of its jets have a range of about 6,700 miles. They can fly non-stop to Europe. Several other corporate operations are present at Lunken. However, they like to keep a low profile. They include companies such as Kroger, American Financial, and ChemEd. Others are present, but those are the ones listed on the airport directory. EJM started as American Air Services at Lunken in 1977 and has several hundred employees at Lunken. They provide executive jet charters, flight support, and aircraft management. They are one of the largest employers at Lunken. Ultimate Air Shuttle commenced operations in July 2009 and now serves New York, Chicago, Cleveland, and Charlotte. Ultimate is a private air carrier that operates planes carrying 30 passengers or less. Because of that, they have less stringent security rules than regular airlines. Bill Schmidt founded Signature Engines in 1998. Signature Engines is an FAA certified licensed repair station and has overhauled engines for customers around the world, from corporate clients in Brazil and Australia to private pilots in Germany and Russia. The Cincinnati Aviation Heritage Society is organized exclusively for charitable, scientific, and educational purposes, more specifically to collect, restore, and display aviation artifacts relating to Ohio and the Cincinnati tri-state, and in particular, all aviation in general. There's a book on the history of Lunken, and it can be purchased at the museum, online, or at some local bookstores. In summary, Lunken was a front-runner in aviation in many respects. A lot of happenings occurred at this airport. Today, it is often called the blue-collar airport because it serves the workaday needs of general aviation. Over 400 aircraft reside at Lunken Airport. Much like the city of Cincinnati, it went through a major growth period and eventually settled in to become a mature contributor to the community. We would like to thank the following organizations who have assisted us in preparing this presentation.